Tonight, Betsy Devos' least favorite teacher, camping out with Antifa, and
people are taking shits on your scooters.
In the Democratic Republic of Congo, the Catholic Church is leading a movement to oust President Joseph Kabila, who's held on to power for 17 years.
Nous sommes mains vides, chapelet Bible, mais s'ils osent tirer, nous allons répondre.
Kabila insists elections will be held at the end of the year, but the government has delayed the vote repeatedly, and now church-led protests have become a monthly ritual.
Nous sommes debout, nous allons revendiquer le droit. Advienne que pourra, le Congo sera libéré de la dictature.
The police have surrounded the cathedral where the protesters listened to mass before demonstrating. A few rocks thrown, but most demonstrators have gone back inside the church grounds where the police are basically holding them in.
Protesters say police have had a heavy hand in enforcing the ban against these demonstrations. Police Chief Silvano Kasongo downplays the use of excessive force.
Qu'est-ce qu'on leur demande de manifestants?
Les manifestants, non, on leur demande qu'ils rentrent librement à leur maison. On ne veut pas des attroupements. Quand le gouverneur n'accepte pas que les gens marchent, ils peuvent marcher. Les gens qui marchent là sont les responsables de ce qui se passe aussi. Ils doivent répondre. Le rôle de la police, c'est rétablir l'ordre public. Et maintenant, il n'y a plus de problème. Vous avez vu qu'on a tué personne. La personne qu'on a arrêtée, on l'a libérée.
But demonstrations have turned deadly. Security forces have killed at least 47 people in the last year, according to the UN. And that same day, an activist was shot outside a Catholic church nearby. Rossi Makendi was a school teacher and helped organise anti-Kabila protests. Eyewitnesses say Rossi was unarmed and allege that police shot him in church grounds.
na salle pour les protéger parce que pour les acquis bon bazaki bien armé azo saigner vraiment ils ont bima logo la pompe ba trace auto tcha noir pour la c'est signe que eska makila na ye etangaki neto yaki obima na ye awa et c'est par ici que escalada qui est ba que un hôpital.
C'est trop fort. On s'est attaqué avant ma casse. Quand on a besoin d'être en délire.
Friends and family say Mukendi was targeted by police for his activism, rallying against the threat of Kabila extending his rule.
Is that a reflection of what politics is like in Democratic Republic of Congo now?
Justement, c'est ça. Le combat de mon frère, c'est pour le respect de la Constitution. C'est le respect de la Constitution. Pour lui, Kabila n'a plus le droit de gérer ce pays parce que son mandat a déjà pris fin depuis l'année passée. Il ne peut plus continuer. Donc il était là en train de protester pour dire Kabila, il faut dégager, ce n'est plus ton temps.
In eastern Congo, the situation is far worse. Kabila's government has seized on the resurgence of ethnic clashes as a reason to potentially delay elections. The Lendu and Hema are two neighbouring ethnic groups who fought one another in the past. But since 2007, they've lived in relative peace. Not anymore. A Lendu militia has been targeting the Hema since December, burning villages and killing more than 250 people. Just days before we arrived in Marze village, a Lendu militia allegedly slaughtered more than 40 Hema villagers. It was one of the worst cases of ethnic violence in recent memory.
Alors qu'ils sont venus avec de la machette. De ces villages, on a perdu.
Il y a beaucoup de femmes.
Oui, il y a beaucoup de femmes. Il y a les femmes vieilles.
David Itsobwa lost 15 family members and has been investigating the massacre for human rights groups.
Il y a les enfants de 2 ans, 3 ans, 4 ans, jusqu'à 20 ans. Il y a l'autre qui a perdu son épouse avec ses enfants. Lui aussi, il a perdu son enfant, 2 enfants.
Do you feel safe here now? Do you feel protected by the army?
Non, nous ne sommes pas en sécurité. Le nombre de soldats qui se retrouvent ici, qui sont peu, en rapport qui c'est Lendu.
In response to fighting between the Lendu and Hema, the government has reinforced its military presence in the area. But villages continue to come under attack.
Donc vous attendez même les coups de balle.
How do we know that what is happening there right now isn't a massacre happening in a village?
Malgré tout ce que nous rencontrons sur le terrain, mais ce qui est vrai, l'armée fait son travail et la police nationale congolaise.
When you talk to the Hema tribe, they say that the army doesn't get involved and nothing's being done to stop them.
Ce sont les fausses allégations. Comment les FARDC, qui a eu mandat de protéger la population et voir sa population être tuée, c'est inconcevable.
Instability across the country has led to more than 4.5 million people displaced and more than 13 million in need of aid. And the UN says the humanitarian crisis is now reaching a breaking point. This overcrowded camp is home to thousands of people, mostly Hema who fled from Lendu attackers. And aid agencies say hundreds more are arriving every week. This tent is filled with families who bear some of the most brutal injuries.
Can you tell me what happened to you?
Nine Richard's 2-year-old daughter, Rachel, now has these permanent scars to her face and skull. Her older sister, 11-year-old Marve Grace, watched her pregnant mother get hacked to death.
What is happening looks like a crime against humanity, a genocide crime, because those combatants, they are looking just on one ethnic groups.
Father Alfred Ndrabu is a priest in a local Catholic diocese, which released a report on the violence in February. The report suggests the government is supporting mercenaries who are deliberately fueling conflict between the Lendu and Hema. Survivors told the diocese the attackers were speaking in outside languages, one of which was Lingala, the language spoken 2,000 miles away in the country's capital.
In the diocese report, you noted that some of the people giving orders to the Lendu youth were speaking in Lingala.
Yeah.
What's the significance of that?
For me, it means that there are some people with them who are not from Lendu's communities.
Isn't the implication that the state is involved?
right now, I do not have enough proofs to tell this. But as we know, for sure, when there is such a clashes, it can really impact, even delay the election process. People really want election to happen. But you can see what is happening in our place here. It is a way of distracting from this reality, because people are really suffering.
Ladies and gentlemen.
The White House held an event today to honor the national and state Teachers of the Year.
Such an important job. There is no more important job.
But the ceremony comes at an awkward time. Teachers across the country have been staging walkouts to demand better pay and better support for public schools. And many of the honorees visiting Washington this week aren't satisfied either. Several of them voiced their frustrations in a closed-door meeting on Monday with Education Secretary Betsy Devos.
Nobody intimidates me for the simple fact that I have knowledge that other people don't have. And Ms. DeVos or other administrators or people that I'm going to talk to don't have the knowledge and the experience that I have. I'm very good at what I do.
What did you ask Betsy DeVos at the meeting?
I said, I don't know how other states are being affected by this exactly, but I know in Oklahoma we're being affected in a negative way by the removal of money from public education to start helping to fund charter schools and private schools. And I said, if you know anything about Oklahoma funding, we're having problems already, as it is, in our public schools. Many of our school districts are going to 4-day weeks, to save money.
How did she respond?
She told me, first of all, that we needed to rethink of how we define public education, and that all of these schools are public education. But if you change the name and call those public education, I guess that lets you get around that problem of taking public monies and putting it in private entities.
How do you and other teachers feel about Secretary DeVos's response to the walkouts and the strikes across the country?
Secretary DeVos's response was basically that I hope the teachers can work out their differences without, hurting the kids. Does it hurt to walk out for a couple days so that we get improved conditions for our children for years afterwards? Or does it hurt to let the children continue in a situation that is not most to their benefit?
Do you have more or less faith in the Department of Education and the Secretary of Education in the aftermath of that meeting?
I have less faith that public education is going to be taken care of like it needs to be taken care of. It bothers me, it scares me. Of course, any teacher reads the news and keeps up with what's going on, and we've had concerns. But now after the conversation, yes, I'm definitely concerned about what the future of public education is, because like I said, my job above everything is not to fight with people or argue with people. My job is to advocate for children.
All right. Who's this? Have we met? Have we met?
My name is Jimmy Jimerson. What's up?
You cracked corn and I don't care.
Remember that. Y'all ready to burn this?
Hell
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is for all the people who were enslaved from 1619 to 1865. Gotta say fuck the Confederates and fuck the Klan and fuck white nationalists.
Right.
Fuck that rag.
Fuck them all.
These anti-fascist activists are riding high after a string of victories. They're camping in the deep woods of Tennessee the night before a white nationalist conference, hoping to shut it down.
So, hey everyone, can we gather around here a little bit? How are you guys? I haven't seen you in a while. It's been a week. Right? Am I talking to who I'm thinking I'm talking to? Yeah? Okay.
We all know each other.
I want to say thank you guys. All of you. I've not met some of you, but you guys you're here. And it makes me really proud to be fighting by your side.
We're a family. We're not blood, but we're family.
Tomorrow, when you're given that choice of do I take the next step, fucking take it.
Many of these guys are veterans of past events. They've been in fights together, bailed each other out of jail. They travel around the South and Midwest to protest white nationalists. Since Charlottesville, white power events have gotten smaller, but Antifa wants them to stop entirely.
Antifa employs different tactics and strategies to deplatform white nationalists, Nazis.
And what are those strategies?
A lot of times it includes actual violence.
But are you ever concerned that, like, even if these methods work, they might be unethical?
I'm okay with that. I don't feel bad for ruining their fucking weekend.
Do you ever feel like fighting Nazis gives you purpose? And so, like, in a way, it gives you your life meaning?
No. I'd so much rather be doing other things. Making science fiction movies and, spending time with my daughter. I feel like I have to do it because so few people realize that phrase, lest we forget. Most people have forgotten.
This is our campus! This is our city!
In March, Antifa scored its biggest victory. At Michigan State, they fought off Richard Spencer's supporters, and the night before, found out where they were staying and got in a car chase. Spencer canceled his college tour a few days later.
Antifa is winning to the extent that they are willing to go further than anyone else.
Some of these tactics are a bit less brutal than punching people.
It was from some kind of fake email, but I was able to trace it back to him.
They've doxed white nationalists, posting their real names and locations so neighbors and employers know who they are. And they've engaged in creative counterintelligence.
It's real easy to catfish them, and that always leads to solid intel.
So explain what catfishing means.
Pretending to be a girl.
We create a profile, very typical, very stereotypical woman who is approaching these guys who are insecure. You throw a little love at them.
What kind of love? Like, you're so sexy?
Yeah, you're a badass. You're so good at what you do.
How do I be a part?
Yeah.
Where do I go? That's how we find out what they're planning, where they're going to be, and how they're doing it. Using their misogyny against them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
they
so interesting.
They couldn't fathom that they could ever be duped by a female.
This is the American Renaissance Conference, an annual meeting of white power figures who work to give an intellectual sheen to racism. Jackets and ties are required. A few dozen anti-fascists were there to get in their faces and to stop their conference. But that's gotten harder to pull off. Police are better prepared with a massive display of force.
Whoa, you can say it halfway. The police have completely fenced off the area that they want us to be in. This is the only area that they're letting us be in.
Protests were limited to a demonstration area surrounded by fences and a moat of police. All they could do was yell.
Fucking look at it! Fucking that good! That's the first time today you done looked at it. Be fucking accountable for your actions. If you weren't in that uniform, them motherfuckers would kill you just as quick as they would kill me or any other black man. What the fuck are you doing? Sitting by them. What the fuck are you doing? They want you dead! Hey, you! Hey! Fucking look at me! Fucking look at me!
This was too much for some allies.
When I come through the police, I tell them, I said, thank you for taking care of us to keep us from these Nazis who are truly dangerous and terrible people. It sort of puts them a little off balance because they're expecting people to call them motherfucker and all that kind of thing.
Watch out! Watch out! Mask guy, look out, the mask is on.
This was the only major conflict of the day.
Let him go! Let him go!
Police jumped in to remove one protester who they said pulled his bandana over some of his face. He was not arrested.
Before the conference, you guys were talking about shutting the whole thing down, making them have a really bad day. You weren't able to do that. Their conference seemed to go on as planned. So do you still consider this a success?
Yeah. You know, I mean, I consider that the fact that we get people out there and there's a show. You don't win every battle, and I don't expect to.
Okay, have you seen them yet? The sudden surge of all those scooters.
The San Francisco MTA impounded dozens of scooters.
These scooters run amok.
They zip around on the sidewalk and sometimes get dumped right in the middle of it.
San Francisco was the site of an invasion last month. A fleet of app-based electric scooters suddenly arrived on almost every street and sidewalk. The 3 companies that operate them attended no hearings and received no permission from city officials before they dumped their products on the street. And unsurprisingly, people hate them.
I almost got hit 3 times.
Obviously, they don't belong on sidewalks, but that's where they are.
One wrong turn and I can be on my back. So, oh no.
They shouldn't be going on the sidewalks and they shouldn't be going so fast.
Get rid of it.
The companies have cute names like Bird, Lime, and Spin, and CEOs like this man, Travis Vanderzanden. Travis was the COO of Lyft and then a VP at Uber, a company known for pissing off city officials in the interest of unregulated ride-sharing. Bird is based in LA and, full disclosure, the company sublets office space from Vice.
Anything new tends to feel disruptive and can sometimes be controversial.
How new is it though? Isn't it just kind of a razor scooter with a battery on it?
Well, electric scooter sharing is, Bird was the first in the world to actually do that.
Spin is another company in the electric scooter space.
We're kind of known as a company that's been going out there and innovating on the regulatory side and actually helping cities craft these solutions. And our goal here in San Francisco is to come to a permit system as soon as we can.
Can you understand how the phrase innovating on the regulatory side could, to regulators, be seen as just breaking the law?
I mean, that's one. I mean, putting my lawyer hat on, I think that it's a process.
In April, the city attorney issued cease and desist orders to all the scooter companies, claiming that customers were violating the law by not wearing helmets, blocking sidewalks and access ramps, and not having valid driver's licenses. Is it more important to be competitive than it is to obey what the cities are telling you to do?
We don't think we were breaking any laws. We're supportive of regulations. And what we've said is whatever the city of San Francisco comes up with for regulation, Bird will absolutely comply with that.
It's unclear if the combination of electric scooters and angering municipalities will be a sustainable business model. Although Bird is rolled out in 7 cities, it paid a $300,000 fine in Santa Monica for operating without a proper business license. But the company tells us that in San Francisco, Bird scooters have traveled more than 140,000 miles in 30 days. And they do have a cadre of loyal enthusiasts.
Ducks fly together. Once you get on there and you start the wind in your hair, it's pretty fun.
Could we potentially see you at the next city council meeting standing up for Bird and saying, no, these things belong in our city?
Absolutely, like all the Chads and the Brads of the world will be the Seans and Maxes.
I did send in the email saying, keep Bird in San Francisco, tried to do my part electronically. I've had a lady kind of scream at me saying this is ruining San Francisco.
Yeah, I usually just get some dirty looks. Either there's girls checking you out or there's, the angry elderly couple that's saying, get off my streets.
Lime declined to be interviewed for our story, and none of the companies would tell us how many scooters are actually on the streets. Yesterday, the city established a permit that companies can apply for, although they're not guaranteed to get approval. Bird told us they'll apply as soon as possible. Meanwhile, the enraged citizens of San Francisco are policing them with other means, smearing the scooters with human feces, cutting their electrical lines, and even throwing them in the ocean. People are taking shits on your scooters in San Francisco. How does that make you feel?
Well, I don't love it. I mean, I think, I think of the birds as, they're very important to us, and we think the birds are out there doing very good for the world.
Do you know better of what a city needs for transportation than the city itself does?
No, I don't think we know better than what they know, but I think there's always new innovations happening that maybe cities haven't thought about yet, or we have something new and unique that's never been tried before. And what's the best way to work with cities to actually pilot that and see if it works, and then figure out how to make sure it's successful when we enter a market.
That's Vice News Tonight for Wednesday, May 2nd.